Hello everyone, today I'm going to do a YouTube video on some questions. A subscriber on my channel has emailed me. These are some questions that anyone that's new into the hobby might have. I know I had some of the questions that he's asked me in my mind when I first started out, so it's all good. I'll help everyone out here. Now, first question is he's having problems with the springs not working. They fall out supposedly from the spring retainer here. Now, it could be a couple of things. It could be that he is using the bottom portion of the spring and trying to attach it like so. As you can see here, it just doesn't work. The bottom portion of the spring itself is way too big to fit on there. But the smaller portion right here should just snap right in. And you should hear a nice little snap. Now, there are some spring manufacturers, such as CRC's newer springs and Associated Olive or Associated Green, whatever color you want to call it. The actual top hole, not this spring, but the actual top hole where it attaches into here, it's a lot bigger than the actual retainer itself. And so what you'll have to do is you'll have to take a pair of pliers or even a shock shaft tool, like so, and you just want to squeeze the spring slightly in order for the hole to be slightly smaller. And just be careful when you do that, because you can damage the wire, especially this portion right here. You can collapse it too much and it'll be a real pain to reopen again and get it to fit again. All right, that's that for that one question. He says the front suspension is very stiff and requires a fair amount of force to push it down. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the kit's front springs, they are quite stiff. I would suggest picking up a set of Team Associated front springs or any other manufacturer front springs, but you want to probably go for a softer front spring. That will probably help out with the handling of the car. I know I tested out the kit springs with this with the Associated vehicle. And the kit springs, which are quite stiff, were actually great for my track conditions. But, you know, if you're running asphalt, you want to run something fairly soft. Like, I'm running the Japanese style of measuring springs. They use millimeters. So I'm running the kit spring that comes with the Associated kit. It's a 0.50 millimeter front spring. But generally, most people run 0.45 millimeter. So one spring softer than the kit spring. You can even go 2 spring rates softer, especially if you're running on asphalt, because you want that car to, you want that suspension to roll quite a bit. You want a nice soft spring for asphalt. But I would start with 1 spring rate softer, see how that goes, and then maybe try 2 spring rates softer and see how that goes as well. Rear pod suspension. Now, I hope you watched the rear pod video on how to set it and make sure it's nice and bind free. As long as your pod right here, this part right here, is built nicely, smooth, no friction whatsoever, and same goes with your side links. As long as you got a nice smooth setup there, that's great. Now, if it's your damper causing you issues, I highly suggest getting the Team Prime damper. I didn't even build my Associated shock damper, and as you can see, many drivers that run the Associated chassis do not even use the kit damper. They just go with the Team Prime damper. Now, this setup here is kind of like my own little setup here. I've added like a custom extension so I can get a nice long damper. But you can use the Team Prime damper with like the original kit setup, you know, with the bracing here and like the actual front mounting position. You don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing. You can use the original kit setup here. You'll be fine. But I highly suggest getting the Team Prime damper or a CRC damper or an X-ray damper. Just don't deal with the Team Associated damper anymore. I would just leave that be. He says, I plan on running the car on a smooth but uneven outdoor surface. Yes, you would need a softer suspension. The kit spring that comes with the associated damper, keep that. That's a perfect spring to run on asphalt because that spring is one rate softer than the gold spring. Now this one's fairly stiff, but you know you can give this gold spring a try because that will definitely give the car more steering. But I would test first with a blue associated spring on asphalt and see how that goes. If you find that the car is really too easy to drive, you know, you need a little bit more steering, then throw the gold spring on there, and that should help out with some steering and make the car a little bit more reactive. The oil, now running oil on the associated damper, I'm a little at odds with it. I'm not too sure exactly what kind of oil to use. Now it really depends on the class you're running, but for this damper here, this is my stock motor class, and I'm running 65 weight oil in this damper here, which seems to work well. And the modified car I have right now, I'm running a blue spring with 45 weight. Now, the choice of oil that you use will also be dependent on the class you're running. Ideally, you want to run a thicker oil when you're running a slower stock class because you don't want the car pitching forward too quickly. Modified, you want to get that reaction, nice quick reaction, so a thinner oil would be better from my experiences. What else? And also, you have to keep in mind the temperatures. Temperature will affect the viscosity of the oil. You'll just have to go on the internet and find an oil viscosity chart. There should be one out there if you just Google it. Damper tubes. Damper tubes, I usually run 20,000 K. Sorry, 20,000 or 20K in the damper tubes. Usually that's as far as I go with the traction out here on carpet in Japan. The traction isn't super high here because of the tire additives that they use. So 20K seems to be a good all-around setting for indoor carpet. For asphalt, I would probably go down to maybe 10K because that will definitely help out with the car's reaction, side-to-side reaction. As you go higher up in weight, the pod reaction or side-to-side movement will be very slow, which will make the car easier to drive. Now, if you go to a thinner viscosity, that will probably help out with running on asphalt because you want that car to react a lot quicker, side-to-side movements, because you're trying to get as much traction as possible out of your car. But you'll have to test it out. Like, you know, what I suggest, you know, on how the car handles might be different to what someone else might say. You know, they might say, oh, well, go thicker in weight. But ideally, what's worked out best for me for asphalt racing is running around a 10K or 15K in the tubes. Carpet, 15 or 20K. Very rarely do I run 30Ks because 30K is when you really have high grip conditions. In Japan, we don't really have that here. So I would suggest maybe starting off with 10K. How tight should I make the rear differential? All right, so here we go. This is the end bit here. Now, what you want to do, it's very, very, very easy to do. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply loosen off my diff. Alright, so it's nice and loose. Alright, watch this. Take this hand, take my finger, just kind of like grip this whole tire simply here, and then just turn this wheel. Yeah, that's not good. Alright, so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to tighten the nut slowly and test. No, not good. Keep doing it. Well, getting there, but still slipping. I'm going to keep going a little bit. And as you get closer and closer to the point where you know that the diff is going to fully lock, don't keep cranking it down with large increments. You just want to do nice fine increments now. And then just, oh, see it's still slipping there. Now I'm just going to do a nice, let's do a little bit here. Test. Oh. Still a little bit more. Still gotta go. Almost there. You want to make sure that you can't turn it at all. Yeah, that's pretty good. Alright, and that's that. And you want to just double check to make sure that the diff is doing its thing, doing its differential action. Okay? Like so. And that's that. And that's pretty much it. And how you set a diff. It's pretty easy to do. You want to definitely check the differential action after you've done the diff tightening settings. If it is gritty, then there's something going on with your bearings or your thrust bearing. There might be something going on there. But yeah, definitely check the diff after you've done the full tightening procedure. Okay. Hope this was of help. Bye-bye.